Let's discuss frequencies, because a lot of people don't understand that emotions are particular states of resonance in an individual's consciousness, and that is your frequency. That is your channel. Other day I said you could tune into 105 point swag the fuck up, or you could tune into 97.2 be a bum ass bitch. Consider the vibrations raised. I love getting into conversation with people. I love being able to, bounce ideas off of an individual's mind, especially the most stubborn people, the most obstinate people, the most committed to their way of thinking, which isn't producing anything that is notable or anything that they truly desire, anything that is commendable on any high level. I love getting into conversations with those who are adamantly attached to their way of thinking, although their way of thinking is way less effective than the way of thinking that I possess and that I put forward, because it gives me a chance to truly reflect on the value of the shit that I have to say. Now I'm having a conversation, I'm in an intellectual discourse with an individual, and they're like, yeah, you always say disregard your feelings. Shouts out to you. You always disregard. I don't say disregard feelings and disregard emotions, but when your emotions and your feelings aren't able to be compartmentalized, and then they end up debilitating you and leaving you, rendering you incapable, incompetent, weak, and unable to perform in life, then you have a fucking mental problem. Whatever why your world is yours. Even if you read The Advancing Individual, I say that the emotions are the senators of the soul who are consistently informing you and coming to the emperor or the chief, the president, with all these suggestions, rational or irrational, and is you, the soul, the executive functioner inside of the constitution of the human composition that you are. It is your responsibility unto whose bill that there's, because that's what senators do. They slide bills and slide different things on your desk for you to approve or to veto. You need to know how to veto these things. Anyway, let's talk about frequency, because we have to understand that emotions are valid, but they're choices. And a lot of you have imaginary evils. So for the individuals out there who are watching people like me invite you to swag your life up, but you live in consistent doubt and lack of confidence, is because in your mind, you see yourself as unable or unsure of yourself in the ability to achieve that which everybody else in front of you is fucking achieving, and that creates a certain feeling. These imaginary evils are falsely created scenarios in the mind, which then create, since they're imaginary evils and they're not real scenarios, these imaginary evils then create these emotions which are based on these imaginary evils, which are now false, which you now have to experience. So even if you think of the worst thing possible and it's never going to happen, you still have to suffer that. A coward dies 1,000 times. Why? Because a coward is always replaying in their imagination the scenario that they don't want and the outcome that they don't want, and they have to emotionally experience that as well. So now you have to get into a level of, it's not just a conversation of emotions, it's not just a conversation of feelings, it's a conversation of rationality, right? Rational conceptualization of self, rational, sensible sensation of self, and truly understanding how to compartmentalize what's real, what's actual, what's beneficial, and what's not. Now, I'll say this. Depression, quote unquote, is a frequency, is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. Despondency is an emotion. Fear is an emotion. These are all feelings. Great, sure, whatever the fuck. Anger, frustration, these are all feelings. They're emotions, they're frequencies. But power, confidence, certitude, fucking joy, happiness, glee, courage, these are also emotions, right? So it's not a matter of emotions, it's a matter of what you're choosing to think into existence and what you're choosing to believe in. I say this now to people. Get away from individuals who believe in depression. Get around people who do not believe in depression. I'm not saying that depression isn't a reality for most people and for many people, no. But it requires your emotionalization of particular mental scenarios and perceptions, most times totally erroneous, most times totally irrational, most times totally insensible, most times totally unnecessary, but it requires you to believe, to tune in, and to emotionally now vibrate on that frequency. You feel what I'm saying? So you can easily switch. This is what I tell people as well. You can easily switch from what's the worst that can happen, and then thinking and creating all these imaginary evils and these imaginary such scenarios and situations of the worst thing that can happen, and then vibrating and emotionally getting into belief of these outcomes possible for you. Or you can switch the channel and think about what's the best thing that can happen, which is also an actual possibility in the plethora of potentialities which can occur with certain inputs into the sequence of your personal existence, aka consequences of thoughts, actions, and energy. Consequences. Con pollo, con arroz, con sequences, with sequence. So you must understand that the consequences of your thoughts, whether they're rational or irrational, the consequences of your irrational thinking and your irrational behavior will have to cascade and boomerang onto you. I don't participate in depression. I love my life. I live in a high state of gratitude. Also, I don't believe in depression. I just know that people are fucking losers. Whatever you are, your world is yours. You don't keep your word to yourself. Your subconscious, which is 90% of your mental ability, which is out of your direct control, it's just like your heart beating right now. You're not controlling that. Right, you can become conscious of it in the moment. But in general, you're not conscious of it, nor are you using your personal conscious volition to continue your heartbeat, to continue your blood moving, continue your cells moving. But based on your conscious auto-suggestion and your thinking and your auto-imagination and auto-suggestion, we're talking about using the third ear and the third eye. The third eye, you can close your eyes and you can imagine, you can visualize, you can conjure and create scenarios which don't exist and play them out and then emotionally jump into them. Blue skidoo, like in Blue's Clues, you can jump into them and feel them out and simulate them. And the more you feel them, the more they become realities onto you, whether or not they're actual or not. Right? Whatever you are, your world is yours. Or you can listen and you can speak to yourself in a voice that is inaudible to the external world. Like right now, we can say the sun is shining, it's beautiful, and I love it. Let's practice that. Let's all say that in our head. The sun is shining, it's beautiful, and I love it. Say it 3 times. Exactly. So you have auto-suggestion, you have a voice internal that you're using, and you also have an imaginative faculty, a visualization faculty, and the way that you're talking to yourself and suggesting to yourself is then prompting you to create these images in your mind, which are tangible, actual, whatever the fuck, rational or irrational. You can always think the best that can happen, or you can always think what's the worst that can happen. And a real motherfucker is thinking 7, 8 stratas of mind where you're permutating 8 different scenarios. You got the worst case scenario, you got the best case scenario, you got all the different scenarios in between, and you're consciously aligning your behavior to have the most favorable outcome occur. If you're looking to have, if you sit in your mind, this is so remedial that I have to say this shit, but if you're sitting in your mind and you're like, all right, I want to maintain a clean floor. You don't walk in the crib with muddy boots. You imagine yourself taking your shoes off and protecting the clean floor. If you want to secure the outcome and be aligned with the outcome of maintaining a clean floor when you have muddy boots on. You don't walk in with the muddy boots and walk to your crib and then be walking around like, I don't know why my house is dirty. Right. It's all about alignment. And alignment isn't some arbitrary fucking concept that most people can never actually put their finger on. Alignment is about integrity to the outcomes and using the scientific method to produce replicable outcomes which are in accordance with comprehending and coming into coherence with the universal laws and principles that require a mind, require a mental apparatus to come into recognition of. Whatever you are, your world is yours. If you're simply living on what you see with your organic eyes, what you hear with your organic ears, and this sensory world, you're nothing but a low-level creature. Humanity is the outreach of the mind, the meditization of the creature into the metasphere, which is actually in the invisible. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's non-existent. There are things that are happening about you and ideas to be brought into contact with ideas. And the ideas don't work themselves into existence. They don't work themselves into practical manifestation. To be brought into contact with these ideas and then to be able to comprehend, comprend in français, parler français, comprend, right? Aprendes. Yo aprendes Tú aprendes, yo aprendo, entiendo. Aprend, comprehend, prehend, apprehensive, to prehend, to grasp. Comprehend is the ability to grasp mentally these ideas. A lot of people, you can speak the ideas. You can talk to a dog about the implications of quantum mechanics and what happens when you blast a fucking electron at a wall and there's a wave or a particle. But you're going to have it. It's a fucking dog. It doesn't have the mental capacity to comprehend shit. So what makes a human is their ability to fucking comprehend shit, right? Why your world is just so back to frequency, right? Because most people don't realize that you don't have to think the thoughts that you think or that you have been inclined to think. You can literally switch the channel. And like I've been saying every day, most people are not fucking depressed. They're fucking losers. And they have to consistently see who they've been, which is a person who says they're going to take care of themselves and doesn't take care of themselves. A person who says they're going to get certain shit done that's in their best interest and then does everything that's not in their best interest. Does everything but what is in their best interest. An individual who says that they are something and then proves consistently to themselves that they are not that which they claim themselves to be. You're a fucking fraud. You're a hypocrite. Monolithic. And this is what I was saying about the subconscious. Your subconscious is your wife. You're female. As a man, as a masculine figure, I know that women are not listening to the words you speak. They're not seeing who you say you are. They're watching your behavior. They're watching your mannerisms. And she's going to either feel safe and secure in her femininity to fully unleash the power. If you're a man and a masculine who's holding their word and who is holding frame and who is living up with integrity. Or if you's a bitch, if you just on the couch, if you just smoking, if you just lazy, if you're a fucking liability, while all these other men are getting up and going out there to get it, to build it, to contribute, to be valuable other offerings to this fucking species that are worth procreating with, she's sitting here with your bitch ass, right? Motherfucking feeling insecure and vulnerable to the fact that you's a bitch. Consider the vibrations raised. So this is not just a male-female thing. This is a conscious, subconscious thing. Most people aren't depressed. They're extremely low frequency. You're not depressed. You are low frequency. You are low vibration. You are in emotional states that are of an inferior degree and an inferior caliber. You don't have joy, courage, power, enthusiasm, zeal. You don't have the fucking certitude, confidence, poise, tranquility, calm, peace. These are all emotions. You have fear, worry, doubt, insecurity. Why? Because you're not handling business. You're not who you need to be. And that's what the goal has been from day one. People think it's about, oh, look at me, I got muscles. No, this is a sign of I keep my motherfucking word to myself. I work very hard. I have high level of comprehension, because how many people show up to the gym every fucking day for years on end are still the same fat cupcake they started, still the same weak ass motherfucker with no motherfucking body armor, right? No fucking body armor. Punch you in the chest, you get your shit caved in, nigga. You don't got no power in you. You feel me? You weak, motherfucker. Why? Because you have low comprehension. So you spending time and you're spending energy day to day and not achieving a result. That's proof of poor comprehension. Life is not a consistency game. Life is a comprehension and a competence game. Consider the vibrations raised. Evolution, only solution, self-mastery, only success. So what I do is I only tune into envisioning the best thing that can, what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? And what actions do I need to take to stay in alignment with those outcomes? Once I feel a frequency shift, or if I'm in an environment that is not aligned with the emotional state that is necessary, or now there's some frequency in the environment, or some weirdo with some weird ass intentions, because you get to a level of psychic sensitivity that I'm at when you become highly developed, that you become very aware of other people's poor resonances. And as Wes Watson says, these frequencies don't vibrate, nor do I want to vibrate with your frequency. I'm not trying to resonate with you, homie. I'm tapped into my shit. I'm not checking in with you motherfuckers. Being a room full of people who's on some weird ass frequency, the instantaneous decision is to remove yourself. I remove myself. I know I'm out of here. Why? Because this is not aligned with the reality, with the vibration, with the feeling which is necessary to be in the law of attraction, because frequency and vibration are the same thing. Frequency is the measure of the interval between the peaks of the vibration, of the oscillation, of the movement. You have a flat line and then you have a pulse. If it's like a slow wave like that, that's low frequency. If it's like this, and there's like very sharp, small increments in between, I'll put the image. Put small increments in between. This is low frequency, this is high frequency. You see low frequency has those wide gaps and these wide dips between peak intervals. High frequency, shortened time between peak intervals. So high frequency versus low frequency, the only way to get into high frequency is to live in alignment with such and not have yourself in these situations of places and spaces where energy dips. Consider the vibrations raised. Frequency is a measure of vibration, which is a measure of movement. And if you're talking about the law of attraction, you're talking about the law of magnetism, and you're talking about the law of bringing things that are in alignment, the law of affinity. Everything doesn't have the same resonance and the same affinity, but if you become harmonically resonant, if you become resonant with that which you desire, you will come into proximity with that which you have an affinity for. So anywhere you are, you've attracted yourself to be there. You're the one who vibrated yourself, walked yourself, thought yourself, willed yourself into that place and space in that scenario. If you are ever to realize the changing conditions in the environment that are no longer aligned with that which you are have affinity for, or which is in your calling, what you're being called to, then you must remove yourself accordingly. Why your world is yours. This is why manifestation, working things into practical reality, staying in the necessary vibrational state to attract the things you want and get yourself on the timeline that you want. Solitude favors manifestation. Manifestation favors solitude is simply because you don't want to mix frequencies. I'm not here to mix frequencies. I don't want to be in a room if I'm on 200 degrees or 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit and all these motherfuckers is ice cubes. They're going to bring my degree, my frequency, because what is the measure of Fahrenheit in temperature? It's the measure of energy present and the molecule movements. If we think about water, you have ice, it's cold, there's no movement between the particles, that makes it solid. Once you add some heat, there's movement between the particles, it loosens up, it becomes liquid. It's the same material, it's still H2O. They're just in different energetic states. So if some people are on ice, they're slow, they're not moving, they're rigid, they're stagnant, they're not vibrating. It's still vibrating, but it's not vibrating freely. Now you have liquid. It loosens up. The particles, they start to move more fluidly. They take the form of the container. You add even more energy. You add even more heat. You add more energy. Now the water starts to boil. What happens? The energy and the particles start to move so fast that what? Now they begin to evaporate and become a gas. It's still the same material. There's still H2O. The H and the O are not separating from each other and becoming hydrogen and oxygen. The H2O is just now entering the atmosphere. And that's how you have humidity, because humidity is water in the air. Air and oxygen are two different things. Air is simply the gas that's in front of you, full of nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, etc. This is a higher level of comprehension. Do you get it? Whatever you why your world is yours. We're not here for the remedial. When you get on the program, I don't really give a fuck if you start asking me all these questions. If you're not actually living with integrity to physical principles, material, tangible principles, concrete principles, then I don't really give a fuck to give you all this information, because you just become another self-debilitating intellectual primate who doesn't get any shit done. The point here is to become actually extremely comprehensive, actually extremely competent, so that we can be actually extremely contributive to the world and others. They might do gymnastics. That shit ain't helping nobody, homie. You might inspire somebody else to do some gymnastics, but society and civilizations, legacies are developed on more than just doing fucking push-ups and going to the gym. It takes you an hour to go to the fucking gym and put in the fucking work. You eat correctly through the day. You maintain integrity. You get your body into a respectable condition. You cure yourself by becoming sober, by staying sober, right? Because the last thing I'm going to say here too is that it's not simply about getting sober or getting fit or being enlightened and living with integrity to the principles, right? Because enlightenment without integrity to the principles is fucking bullshit, still ignorance, right? And it's not about becoming rich. It's about getting sober and staying sober, getting fit and staying fit, getting enlightened, having integrity to these principles, and keeping integrity to these principles. And lastly, getting rich and staying rich. If I gave a fucking bum $1 million right now because they have a fucking flawed ass mindset, they'd be a bum in 6 months max, 3 months max. Right, because you don't have the mindset, you don't have the consciousness, you don't have the habits, you don't have the conduct that matches the retention of the thing, because you didn't actually earn it. Somebody just gave you $1 million. If I gave you a full clean slate of no withdrawals and automatic sobriety, you would instantaneously run, because you would be in such a pure state that it would get you super high to get high, that you would run over and get high again, and you would sabotage your fucking sobriety. Same thing when it comes to fitness. If I gave any of you this body, you would instantaneously trash it and bring it back to normal, because your habits, your thoughts, your frequencies, your thoughts, your actions, your energy output, your frequency is out of alignment. You, as the way you conduct yourself. And what is conduct? Third rail on the metro in New York conducts electricity. Water conducts electricity. Conductivity is the ability to conducively manage and flow of energy. Conductivity is the flow of energy. So whatever you are, your world is yours. It all goes back into frequency. It all goes back into vibration. And it all goes back into understanding that you can choose to not vibrate at a low frequency if you live at the highest level of authenticity and integrity to yourself, which is going to have a compound on the effect of your psyche. Whatever you are, your world is yours. They're all cyclical states. We can acknowledge all of that shit, but we hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, right? Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. So we don't even think in terms of depression and doubt. We only think in terms of joy. We only think in terms of gratitude. We only think in terms of productive and more and plenty and power and motherfucking zeal and enthusiasm and will and courage. We only think these things. This is the channel we on. You feel me? So all these other motherfuckers who's committed to being victims and who are so habitually attached to just inferior states of personal vibration, let them be that. You don't have to get in a conversation. Whatever you are, your world is yours. You have the right to be as depressed as the fuck you want to be. But for everybody out there who's sensible, who understands their life, who understands the value of their life, and who actually wants to become a high frequency being, not just speaking about this shit and in theory, right? Because hypothetical is hypocritical. Not just being a hypothetically high vibrational being, but you're still broke, addicted, out of shape. And when you go to sleep at night, you put your head on your pillow, you're fucking sad, anxious, and depressed. You're still neurotic. Right? You still have neuroses, right? We're not neurotic. We're actually moving around with a clean, pure state of being. And that's why we can feel other people's energies, is because we have a stillness within ourselves that is afforded by having done the work to clear our consciousness and to clear our conscience from all the things that we were attracted to. You have to embody and possess and acquire all the attributes, aspects, and things in this life that you are attracted to, so that you can actually get it off of your bucket list. Once you get it off of your bucket list, once you get the body, once you get the sobriety, once you obtain and afford the experiences, the travel, the car, the this, the that, and the fourth, you then have a free state of mind. Until you get to a certain level of financial ability, you will never actually be able to see clearly. And once you get to a certain level of financial ability, then you will realize it wasn't about the money. You'll actually realize that it wasn't about the money, because you earned it, you had it, you saw it. You got to actually compare and contrast the value, intrinsic value, assess the intrinsic value, and see that it was always about being something. Never anything to gain, never anything to lose. We're always something to be. And that's what it is. Consider the vibrations rates. Evolution, only solution, self-mastery, only success. Yeah, a lot of motherfuckers is always going to talk some dumb shit. But frequency, feelings, vibration, it's all a choice. So you could tune into that loser-ass frequency, depression as a belief system. Or you could get into true, authentic expression as your belief system. Live in power, joy, fucking courage, superior will, superior output. You know, fall in love with the creative, fall in love with the contribution, fall in love with the becoming, fall in love with the unfolding. And in your downtime, in your leisure time, you get to look back and reflect at what you've become and what you've acquired and what you possess. And you get to enjoy the benefits of having vibrated in a certain way for so long, as opposed to having to suffer the consequences of having vibrated in an inferior way for so long, which is depression. You can't evade the laws of the universe. I'm just conveying the laws of the universe to you. You can disagree with me, but everybody who ever disagreed with me is actually doing worse than me, and is always doing worse than they actually want themselves to be. Consider vibrations raised. Evolution, only solution. Self-mastery, only success. We are here for superior psychological development. This is psychological development. The body, that's nothing. That's too easy. You have to become a full-on self-actualized being. And this is when I'm going to finally say it. YWY, we are the Ascendancy. YWY, we are the Actualites. So you have to identify yourself, if you've ever been on the program, if you are on the program, as a YWY, you are an Actualite. They got Israelites out here and shit, right? But you are an Actualite. And once you become an Actualite, Now you actually start to get shit done in a real fucking way. Instead of these weirdos who just live in their fucking delusions and continue to pretend. We actually ascend. Consider the vibrations raised. Evolution, only solution, self-mastery, only success. Let the bums be bums. But if you want to be actually a competent individual, actually a prosperous individual, actually capitalize and profit over your own personal existence that God has given you. God has given you all the fucking resources. God has even given you the opportunity to be in contact with Sheikhy Chic and his ideas, and him giving you this information right here, right now, and then giving you a gateway into actually stepping up into undertaking the responsibility with joy, with glee, with courage, with heart, right, with esteem. Then step the fuck up. It's all about you. YWY, consider the vibrations raised. No pressure, because God doesn't take on weak-ass hearted people. Everything about serving the divine, everything about the highest level of service, everything about enlisting yourself is all volunteer work, because most of these individuals, if they were forced against their will to operate at a higher standard, they would sabotage the mission. So everything about becoming a superior individual, a superior entity, a superior being is all voluntary. And that's why we have no issue in getting everything done, because we have no resistance, because we actually want to do it. We actually want to get it done. We actually want to experience it. We want to build it. We actually want to be of service in that degree, in that regard, in that respect. It's no force. The evolution is effortless when the self-love is real. When the self-love is real, the evolution is effortless. Love of self, self-care, just taking care of yourself, taking care of your people, and taking care of the world. Instead of having the world have to take care of you and you don't even take care of yourself. Consider the vibrations raised. This shit too easy, baby.